With week number 1 of the NFL now in the books, we can officially say the 2022 football season is underway. We previously only offered 30-day NFL packages and 30-day college football packages, but because you asked, we have now added a 30-day NFL and college football combo. If you regularly buy the same handicapper week by week, not only will you save money, but more importantly, you will receive the selections immediately once they are released, allowing you to lock in the best available line and beat the line moves. While a 30-day NFL or college football package sells for $149 each, we want to make a splash for the first week of this combo package. Through Sunday, September 18th, get the NFL and college football combo for only $199. Yes, that's 30 days of NFL and 30 days of college football for under $100 per sport. This special is available at both WagerTalk and Sports Memo, allowing you to bet football right alongside your favorite handicapper for the next 30 days for only $6.63 per day. With week number 1 of the NFL now in the books, we can officially say the 2022 football season is underway. We previously only offered 30-day NFL packages and 30-day college football packages, but because you asked, we have now added a 30-day NFL. You're a winner at WagerTalk even before the game is played with our Wager Rewards program. How does it work? Simple. Earn wager rewards on every purchase made at WagerTalk and Sports Memo. Those wager rewards can be converted into wager bucks on the first of every month. There is no additional fee to participate, and no additional details are required outside your valid WagerTalk or Sports Memo membership. On the first of each month, 5% of your wager rewards will be converted to wager bucks, which are available to purchase on all future purchases. Doesn't it feel good to be part of a rewards program with no additional hoops?
Happy Friday, everyone. Friday starts the weekend, and we are here to make your weekend a profitable one through the props betting markets. I am Andy Lang from WagerTalk.com. Joining me, as always, my fellow prop masters, Andrew McInnis from WagerTalk.com and Matt Josephs from SportsMemo.com. Guys, we're going to break down some plays. We're going to give out a best bet here at the end of the show. We're going to go over a bunch of games. But first, let's re-examine last night, see if there's anything that we can take away from it. Matt, what did you see from the game, from the teams? It felt like the Steelers kind of maybe found a little bit of something when they started to do some of the when they picked up the pace a little bit instead of running the play clock down. Trubisky wasn't great, but he certainly wasn't as awful as he has been. Nick Chubb, big game. Mari Cooper, big game. So what were some of your takeaways from the Browns and the Steelers?
It's almost Kenny Pickett time. That's the biggest takeaway for me. I think if you're the Steelers, you have to go to the rookie to try and juice the energy a little bit. And I know that Tomlin's not going to do it, and he already said after the game, he's like, I'm not even looking at that sort of thing. But, I mean, Mitch Trubisky is what Mitch Trubisky is, and that's kind of what we saw. He does some things all right, and he's got his limitations. You saw a little bit of the frustration with the wide receivers at times last night. I also have this love-hate relationship with the Nick Chubb receiving yards prop because it's so low, and there's games where he sails over it because they make a pointed effort to get him the ball on screen passes and things like that. And then there's other games where it's just like he's not even out there when it comes to receiving. So, and it's usually really low. It's like 6.5, 7.5. Last week it hit, didn't play it. This week I played it, didn't hit, didn't even get it. So I have a love-hate relationship with that prop.
It sounds like a hate-hate relationship with that prop right at this particular moment, Matt. I get it. Andrew, what were some of your takeaways from last night's game from the props perspective?
Well, look, the funny thing is I texted you a couple of days ago, Andy, and said, hey, look, you know what tomorrow is. We both know what day it is. It's Nick Chubb day. And I didn't end up doing it. I went with the Kareem Hunt prop. So here I am sweating that prop out in the rushing yards in the final few minutes. Meanwhile, Nick Chubb once again cashes in, continues to do it. And he's just an absolute workhorse on the ground. And they keep feeding him. And look, I just want to say, Brissett hasn't been that bad. I mean, everybody thought he was, everybody was so down on the Browns just because of him and what he was going to bring to the table. He hasn't been anything special, but he hasn't been anything bad. He's made the right plays. He's gotten the job done, and he's found his targets. And I think that he has to get more respect. And I might start looking at some stuff with him, but I got to give you some credit because we always talk about quotes and coaches' quotes and what we can read into as far as the prop market goes. Look, Amari Cooper, whether or not you had the receiving yards, if you had the receptions, longest catch, any single prop, touchdown to do with Amari Cooper, cashed in last night. So hats off to you, Andy, for that big 5% winner. And I just want to say about Trubisky, my quick thoughts on him. Look, the fact is you can't have, when you're a team like the Steelers, you can't have your receivers turning around and walking back for the ball. He is never hitting his receivers in stride. They're always stopped, almost running back to the ball. How many balls did he throw last night that hit the ground because they were, 5 or 10 feet too short? That's an issue right now. And as far as this Steelers team, guys, I don't want anything to do with them as far as props. I don't know what we're going to get from their wide receivers. I don't know who's going to be the guy each and every night. So this is one of those teams where when we talk about props and how we manage our research and how we, go through the card every week, one of those teams that I don't have a read on, I don't really want my money on right now.
Yeah, it was an interesting night for Steelers props. I mean, Najee Harris gets over his total by half a yard. He does score a touchdown. And then you look at the Pittsburgh receiving. I mean, Deontay Johnson, he went over his. Claypool, brutal loss on Claypool as he has this total over, and then on the last play of the game loses 6 yards on the lateral and ends up going under. Pickens had pretty low totals on his props. He went over on all those, but Njoku seems to be a big part of this offense. And Andrew, I thought you did a really good job saying Brissett has not only has he not been bad, he's been pretty decent. I mean, pedestrian numbers, but he didn't have to do much last night. 21 to 31, 220 yards, 2 touchdowns. And the Amari Cooper was the 5% play, and that play really came about because of a quote that I heard during a broadcast where in week 2, Jacoby Brissett said, listen, after game 1, we looked at film, and I noticed Amari Cooper was way wide open, and I was missing him. And so he said, I told Amari, I got to get you the ball more. So we see 2 big weeks in a row for Amari Cooper. So just kind of one of those comments that really stuck out, and it ended up being a nice cash. So, all right, gentlemen, let us start looking into Sunday's games. This is going to be a gigantic shock to everybody. Matt has chosen to take a look at the Eagles games. So we have a rivalry. It's a rivalry renewed. It's Matt Josephs versus Carson Wentz. It's the Washington Commanders versus the Philadelphia Eagles. So Matt, a lot of big names in this one. This is actually one of those under the radar, interesting games from a props perspective. I'm excited to get your perspective. What do you like in this game?
Well, first of all, I'll say is I thought it was funny. The Carson Wentz interceptions prop was even that first week, and we hit it. It's minus 170 now for him to throw an interception. So that thing's out the window now. Like, we're not. And I know we've talked about juice tolerance, and I'm not going to do that again. But like a prop like that, I'm not taking a minus 170. I mean, Carson could have one of those rare days where he just completes all his passes, and you lose on something like that. But it's just crazy to see the genesis going from even money to minus 170. Even Jalen Hurts is intercepted. Jalen's really good at keeping control of this offense, and even him being at minus 110 to not throw an interception, there might be some value there because this Commanders secondary is just not very good. They're good for at least one bust a game, it feels like, and really that comes into play with maybe like the longest completion for Jalen Hurts. You look at this Eagles offense and you see these random carries for Boston Scott. You see these random receptions for Kenny Gainwell. So it's hard to kind of try and find that value when it comes to the second or third running back. A.J. Brown continues to have big games. I just needed one more. Well, actually, I had the over on the A.J. Brown receiving yards in the Vikings game, and he went over that, but they called one of those 17 ineligible men downfield penalties, which were kind of annoying in that game. So I think they're going to keep feeding him. And Devontae Smith, that was the obvious thing last week, was him getting more catches and more targets because of how his first game went. And, this Eagles offense it's a juggernaut right now. And I think they're going to continue to put some more passes in there for Jalen Hurts, especially going up against Carson Wentz. It's almost like they want to show Carson that they don't miss him at all. And I think the Commanders are going to do the same thing with Carson. I think he's going to throw the ball a little bit more. And I really learned one of the biggest things when you look at the Commanders, if they're going to be a front runner like they were in week 1, it's going to be an Antonio Gibson week. It means more carries. he's not a guy that they're just going to hand the ball off and have him go straight into the tackles. It's like he's just not a typical running back. He's kind of a pass catching back that occasionally gets the ball in the backfield. And I think his role is going to be changing when Brian Robinson gets back. But since I feel like they might be behind in this game, the J.D. McKissic props, I mean, I'm looking right now, 21.5 receiving yards for J.D. McKissic. That doesn't feel like enough, especially if they're chasing points in this one, which I kind of expect them to be doing. So I think there's some value with J.D. McKissic here. I think Logan Thomas might be worth a look a little bit. You saw the Vikings tight ends get open a little bit against this team. T.J. Hawkinson had a pretty good game against the Eagles. So if there was one weakness to kind of pick on this defense, maybe it's the tight end situation, and Logan Thomas is getting back into the form that he was. Terry McLaurin's killed the Eagles over the past, but I'm thinking Darius Slay might be changing that a little bit. You might find more value with the slot guys and the tight ends going up against the Eagles than you might with the outside wide receivers in this one.
Mate, I thought you did a really good job last week talking about some of the running backs by committee. Do we have much more clarity than that? Boston Scott and Gainwell are still getting touches, but last week it was definitely Miles Sanders at 17 carries, Boston Scott 4, Kenneth Gainwell 2. Is Sanders really starting to settle in as the number one guy that we need to be looking at for some of these props?
Yeah, I think so. And as long as he doesn't fumble the ball, I think it's fine. I think you're going to see more Boston Scott with the carries and Kenneth Gainwell with the receptions here. And you notice it's only 12.5 receiving yards for Kenny Gainwell. The problem is you can't point to like a situation where he's getting the ball. I mean, if you look at his receptions, they're kind of at random points in the game. It's not like you could say, hey, J.D. McKissic gets it when the Commanders are behind. I don't know when Kenneth Gainwell is getting the ball because sometimes Boston Scott's in there. So it's hard to pinpoint. That number is so low because he can go over it on one screen pass. But it's just there's no tendencies to go off of for that running back.
Great stuff from Matt Joseph, sportsmemo.com. Andrew, coming to you. You certainly picked the game with a lot of points, which should translate to a lot of overs. This is an exciting game as well. What do you have for us for the Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins?
It definitely is going to be a great game to watch, an exciting one, and I decided to keep it quite simple, really. But I wanted to start with a prop and look at Tua over 1.5 passing touchdowns here. And guys, looking at the number here at 1.5, you look at his history, it's really not that great. He's lost this in 3 of his last 4 games, and throughout all of last year, it was not a prop that was hitting consistently at all. But this is a new year for the Dolphins, a new team, and a new Tua, I believe. And you look at this Bills team. Their last 7 games, they've won by an average of 19 points. They're a team that you have to be scared of. Everyone's scared of the Bills right now, what they're capable of, and how talented their team is. So what does that mean? You need to put up points. You need to put up touchdowns on the board. And I think we're going to see Tyreek and Waddle get to work again. As we saw both of them, 22 receptions combined for 361 yards and 4 touchdowns last week against the Ravens. A very big performance from both those guys. And if we even get similar work out of those guys this week against the Bills, we're going to see Tua go over 1.5 passing touchdowns, and you're going to get a great price on that. So I like that one quite a bit there for Tua to continue his workload. And obviously for this big matchup, he's going to have to if they're going to be successful against a very talented team with the Buffalo Bills. Look, a really popular prop on Josh Allen that was talked about last year that I don't know if it's going to be talked about as much this year because they're so talented at the receiver position is just his rushing yard prop, And I found something here that said the Dolphins defense blitzed 24% of plays last season, which ranked 2nd in the league. And you take a look at Josh Allen, when he is under the smallest amount of pressure, he has the ability to escape the pocket. I mean, I'd say right now he's one of the best rushers on the team. He's a quarterback, and he knows how to move. The last 9 games he's played, he's cashed this rushing prop 8 times. He has no problem escaping the pocket, and I think it really opens up their passing game as well by keeping the defense guessing. So taking a look at this here for Josh Allen up and over his rushing yard prop, something I'd look as well at 36.5 rushing yards. So 2 plays I'm looking at, Andy, and I have a few more for clients as well, so you can grab that at WagerTalk.com.
That's such a great price you're getting on the Tua over 1.5. It's basic juice minus 115 on a game that projects to be a shootout. I think that's an absolutely fantastic find. Looking at DraftKings here right now on it. Big surprise. I picked the Colts to go over, the Colts and the Chiefs games to go over here. Let's look at just some stats here. The Colts and the Chiefs, they're actually pretty decent rush defenses right now. Colts ranked 10, Kansas City 11, and both teams are middle of the road in passing defense. The biggest difference here is just the Chiefs are passing for almost 300 yards a game. The Colts are passing for 250 yards a game. One of the other biggest differences, the Chiefs look pretty good, and the Colts lost 24-0 to the Jaguars last week. So momentum is a little bit different here. And as somebody here, I can tell you that local media would like the team to be sold, new ownership, new coaching, new GM, new coordinators, everything. The sky is falling here locally in Indianapolis. First one I got to look at is Matt Ryan is minus 125 to throw an interception. This projects to be a game where they probably are going to have to throw to keep up. And I think if Matt Ryan is going to have a lot of pass attempts, eventually he's going to throw one to the other team. Michael Pittman looks like he's going to be able to play. He was out last week and the offense suffered mightily. If he plays, I think you got to go right back to him. They have his receiving total at 64.5 in week one. I know it was against the Texans, but I thought he looked really good. Him and Ryan seemed to have the chemistry, and he had over 100 yards. So we might be getting a nice price on this one because he didn't play last week. And then a sneaky one, Noah Gray, backup tight end for Kansas City. Receiving total is 7.5 yards, and he's gone over both weeks. So now he only had 10 yards and 12 yards. But anytime I get a low total, and Matt had mentioned this earlier, anytime you can get a guy who can get over a total in one play is intriguing. So Noah Gray might be one of those really, really sneaky plays where you take him over 7.5 yards and he catches a 10-yard pass in the first quarter and easy peasy, you cashed it one. And the obvious guy that we have to look at here is Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor had 10 touches last week. I see him getting a lot of work in this game. You go back to last year, he did not have 2 games in a row with this low of usage. And immediately after the game against the Jaguars, we saw the quotes from the coaches about we need to get Jonathan Taylor the ball more. So I think you have to look at his rush attempts over, and then 84.5 yards rushing is going to be tough to get there. But I think the Colts offense really, really commits hard to getting Jonathan Taylor a lot of carries. They want to keep the ball out of Mahomes' hands. But I think the rush attempts might be the interesting way to go on Jonathan Taylor. Travis Kelce is the big one, obviously, on the Chiefs. He's had one over and one under. I think we have to wait until Sunday to decide what to do with Kelce because we need to see if Darius Leonard is going to play. He's been practicing all week. He says he feels good. I think if he plays, he's not going to be getting 100% snap count. I don't think you're going to see him in the entire game if he does play at all. I think that they circled this game for him to play, so I think we see him. But DeForest Buckner is still banged up, and the Colts defense in the secondary, I continue to say, is just not very good. So there's going to be a lot of yards. Patrick Mahomes over is worth a sprinkle, but I find this receiving core for Kansas City really difficult to try and figure out who's going to go over his total. So I would stay away from any of the Kansas City wide receivers. Mahomes should be able to pass quite a bit. And that's what I got on the Colts and the Chiefs. Matt, coming to you, what is the next game that you would like to break down for us today?
By the way, can I get odds on Nick Foles playing, or what's the deal here? I mean, when are we going to get to the real quarterback in Indianapolis?
The true starter of the Indianapolis Colts. Well, all you need is a couple more of those 3 interception games and being shut out to a division rival, and we'll see him sooner rather than later.
After Andy cashes his prop in the first quarter.
I was really impressed with that Ashton Doolin guy you guys have. He's a nice speedster. I feel like he should get some more time.
I didn't know anything about him, and I agree he did look pretty good. But it's kind of one of those things where if you're hungry, you'll eat anything. So I'm not really sure if we're going to be using him, and I'm not really sure if he's a huge part of the game plan going forward now that Pittman is back. So, Matt, what do you got for us? Yes, Andrew.
Well, I just wanted to say real quick. I mean, talk about Jonathan Taylor. I like how when you brought him up, you were like, well, and then there's the obvious one, Jonathan Taylor, because let's be honest, you talk about Matt Ryan, how bad he is, and we look at the running game for this Colts team. I mean, Are they going to try and keep the ball out of Matt Ryan's hands, or do they? I mean, the coach's quotes are saying we still believe in him. He's still our guy, but do we believe that, guys? I mean, Matt says what he's. Is Matt Ryan their guy still?
Yeah, it's only a second game. Michael Pittman was out. Their offensive line is in shambles. They've been playing awful. It's just been they just haven't clicked. But this is not a team that panics and rotates quarterbacks in and out. Like Matt Ryan will play as long as he is healthy. Matt Ryan won't be getting the hook. They pick their guy and they stick with it. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. But we saw it with Carson Wentz. We stuck with him all year last year. So. All right, Matt, we're finally getting to you. What's your second game for us?
Well, I mean, since my team just beat both of these squads, the Vikings and the Lions, and I actually had to watch the Lions play the Commanders last week, I figured why not? I'll do the Lions and the Vikings game. And to me, I love the fact that the money's coming in on Detroit. Like, Detroit's a great story, and they're going to be a fine football team. But I feel like this is a get-right game for Minnesota. I want to load up on everything Justin Jefferson. If I can get 2 touchdowns or more from Justin Jefferson, I would look at that prop. I think he's going to sail over the 100 yards. I think he's going to sail over his longest reception prop. Look, it's a 1 o'clock game. Kirk Cousins is great in 1 o'clock games. The stat compiler himself loves these sort of situations, and the Lions secondary is brutal. I mean, they let Carson Wentz beat him up with that offense, and then of course Jalen Hurts had the big game there. So I'm really looking forward to kind of taking advantage of the Justin Jefferson props here. I'm looking at the team total over for the Vikings. This game screams like a 31-10 situation here. I mean, look, you could kind of dabble with the rest of the guys, but like this is one of the things I've talked to myself about. Like, keep it simple, stupid. Justin Jefferson, Kirk Cousins, Vikings offense, lots of points. I just think this is a Minnesota party. And if Detroit's trying to come back a little bit here, maybe you look at some sort of, Swift stuff if he is healthy enough. I know the knee is sort of an issue here, and we'll see his stats. I'm looking at DraftKings now. His stuff's not even up right now. But just give me as much with the Vikings and Justin Jefferson as possible. This feels like a get-right game for Minnesota against Detroit.
Couldn't agree with you more on Justin Jefferson. The track record for Detroit struggling against those number one wide receivers has been long documented. I believe both number one wide receivers against Detroit has cashed easily over their total. So, like you said, Matt, keep it simple, stupid. Sometimes we dive a little bit too much into the numbers and just take the obvious ones. Andrew, coming to you, and your next game is an interesting one. It's a team I had a lot of success with last year. This year, I haven't really dabbled with them too much. So let's talk about the Cardinals and the Rams.
Well, I'm sure people are probably tired of hearing me talk about how they screwed me last week and I lost a 5% pick on the Raiders. So this will be the last time they'll hear it. But one thing that I learned while losing that pick is that Kyler Murray, whether or not he wants to or not, guys, he's going to have to run the ball. I mean, it's insane to see. I love when they talk about, the path and how many, how far somebody actually ran. Apparently Kyler Murray ran like 85 yards or something like that on that 4th down play to end up reaching the touchdown, just circling around, running up and down the field, side to side, dodging people. No receivers anywhere to help him out. Blockers are MIA. It's all on Murray to do what he does. And I remember seeing reports last year where they don't want him running as much. They want him to, protect himself, start throwing the ball, manage the offense, and, run if he sees fit. Well, I don't think he's going to have the ability to do that. In 6 of his last 7 games, he's gone over this number of 25.5 rushing yards. And I feel like in this particular matchup against a very aggressive pass rush, let's be honest here, he's going to have to get up and out of that pocket and move around. So I think this is actually kind of a low number. I think this is, I don't know if I want to say this is a keep it simple, stupid pick, but this is one of those ones where Murray and the Cardinals are a better team when he is moving and getting out of the pocket and scrambling around. So that's what he does. That's what he's great at. And I feel like he's going to have to do that for his team to be remotely successful this week. So Kyler Murray over on his rushing yards. Guys, we talk about headlines. And I, wanted to give credit to Andy there about the Amari Cooper at the start of the show. Well, sometimes they can be a little misleading, okay? At the start of the year, for Allen Robinson, I saw so many funny quotes. Like Allen Robinson, he's looking like that guy in training camp. He's a dog at training camp. He is going to be a beast this year. What can we expect in his debut? What can we expect in week one? Well, what you can expect is for him not to cash his receptions prop. Okay. That's gone under in 9 of his last 10 games. Clearly, Stafford is just not seeing him, and there's no connection there right now. And I'm gonna go with the trend here and look under for Robinson's receptions. Maybe not yards. And we talked about that last year and the year before that on Prop It Up. If you want to look at receptions versus yards, because maybe he will get a catch, and it's a big one. But I don't think he's going to cash his receptions prop there. So I think under for that one. Guys, 9 of his last 10 games played, he's gone under in that. And so I'm not banking on this game to be the one where he kind of gets some chemistry going. So 2 plays for me on that game. It should be a very interesting one. But sometimes when you get burnt by a play with Kyler Murray and his rushing, you kind of want to use it at least to make you some money the next week. That's what I'm hoping on doing.
Yeah, Allen Robinson has 7 targets. So much for having the dog in him. It has been a dog, just not in the good sense. So I want to finish out this segment by talking about the Saints and the Panthers. It's a little bit of an oddball game to look at from a props perspective, but I'm looking at Alvin Kamara and Jameis Winston being limited at practice. But if Jameis Winston plays, one prop that he has cashed has been his his pass attempts. I believe they set his line at 29.5 last week, and he had 40, which was a cash for clients. I'm going to keep looking at that. Even if Alvin Kamara plays, Alvin Kamara did not run very much in the first game. I believe he only had 9 carries. Last week, Mark Ingram looked okay, but they needed Jameis to throw a lot. And I think Jameis is looking pretty good with his chemistry with Michael Thomas and several of the other receivers on the Saints. So I think this ends up being a passing game for Jameis. Fantasy owners of Christian McCaffrey have got to be in a little bit of a panic stage. I mean, outside of one really long run from McCaffrey, the Panthers have not been getting much done on the ground. Passing, they've been even worse. 168 yards passing a game for them. I will say I like Baker Mayfield over his rushing total in week 1, and he barely missed it. But in week 2, he rushed 6 times for 35 yards, and he had a 17-yard rush. And other than that, I thought he looked really good. I thought he looked much more healthy than last year, which was a big concern and an issue for him. I thought he looked fast. I thought he did a great job using his feet to get out of the pocket. I think I'm going to go back to Baker Mayfield over his rushing total here. They've got it around 10.5. I've seen some books with 12.5, so shop around, as we always say. I think it's a sneaky low number. Thought he looked great, and I think he does it again. The other issue for Carolina is the complete lack of chemistry between Baker Mayfield and DJ Moore. DJ Moore's had 43 yards receiving in both games. His receiving number this week is 54.5. They just haven't been on the same page. This isn't a great passing offense. And it seems like him and Robbie Anderson have a little bit better connection. So you might look at DJ Moore under. And then I have to finish with Michael Thomas being plus 130 to score a touchdown. I just think at this point, if Michael Thomas is plus money to score a TD, you just have to play him. If he doesn't score, you come right back to him next week. Winston really likes throwing to him inside the red zone. He's that big body. He looks like he's 100% healthy. Very hard to cover. He's got 3 touchdowns so far, and at plus 130, I think that is a fantastic way to take advantage of Michael Thomas. I'm not going to mess with his receptions. I'm not going to mess with his yards. But when I can get plus 130 for him to score, yeah, absolutely. I'll take it for sure. So there you go, guys. There's 6 games, breaking them down. And Andrew, you've got a quick little segment. I can't believe it. NHL team totals are here. It's amazing. NHL is right around the corner, and some of these team totals and these points props in NHL have been really, really profitable. So we always got to get out in front of it. You get your best numbers here as soon as these come out. So touch on what you've seen here in the NHL, and then we're going to get to our best bet prop of the week. Andrew, talk about NHL.
I'm super excited, guys. I mean, I know it's football season. Everyone's pumped about that, but you guys know me. I cannot wait for hockey season. I wanted to give out a prop here for this and, kind of a point total here on the show. And, guys, the Chicago Blackhawks team I'm looking at talking about here today really quick, and they had 68 points last season, all right? Their number, shop around, but their number right now is 65.5. So it's a very small difference in the number of what they finished on last year, except for they traded away Alex DeBrincat. They got rid of Kirby Doc, no Dylan Strome. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous the kind of tank mode they're going into right now. They let Dominic Kubalik just walk, didn't even get anything for him. I don't think the Blackhawks understand what the word tank means, because at least when players leave your team, you're supposed to get stuff back. But they've just let these guys walk. And the crazy thing to me is they're trading away younger players. Like DeBrincat's a young guy. Kirby Doc is a young player. That's not what you do in a rebuild. You get rid of your older players. And unfortunately for them, they've kept those guys around. This is going to be a very, very rough year for the Blackhawks. Their goaltending situation isn't that great. Their defensemen aren't that solid. And I think they're overpaid as well, which kind of messes up their salary cap. I have a lot of concern for the Chicago Blackhawks this year. So let's make some money on it and take them under 65.5 points. Shop around 66.5, whatever number you can get. But this is going to be a very, very rough year for the Blackhawks. The books are not adjusting to this. I'm very confused because, based on what they finished with last year and now how different their roster is. I mean, guys, their number one center is, there's some guys on their top line would be on third lines for certain teams. It's going to be a very, very rough year for them. And just really quick, guys, you can grab my early bird special in the NHL right now. Just look at the screen there. It was a very, very good season last year, plus 153 units return on investment there. The sides, puck lines, totals, very successful with those. Hopefully have a great season, build off some of the stuff that I learned that worked well for me last year, and we'll start things off with some season point totals. So before the season starts, I got some videos coming out with Carmine. We're going to do some of those for some more teams, but I just wanted to give one here on Prop It Up for the Blackhawks under on their season point total.
Great stuff, Andrew. Yeah, you had an incredible season, and props have been absolutely money the last couple seasons in NHL. So hopefully we're going to do a lot more content that on props with Puck Time and some other free videos and everything. Looking very forward to that. I want to touch on defensive props here, defensive player props, which is fairly new to me, but I've decided I really wanted to try and dive into it. We've hit 2 in a row. Last night we hit Miles Jack over 8.5 tackles and assists, and that's the category that I want to focus on here. So the tackles and assists prop. First off, I will tell you this. It's very time consuming. It takes a long time to look some of these guys up. There's a lot that goes into it. So I'm not going to do this for every game. So here's kind of how I've narrowed it down. I would like to try and find a game where there's going to be a lot of running. That way I could be looking at defensive linemen and linebackers, guys that are going to be crowding the line of scrimmage, which was the perfect recipe last night. You expected a lot of running from Cleveland. So if there's going to be a lot of runs, you're looking at some linebackers, and Miles Jack was one of them. So games that are going to feature a lot of passing, like the game Andrew mentioned, the Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins, don't expect a lot of runs in that game. So I started with pulling up the player stats. I measured them against the number that the books have out. But then the next step, which has really helped, is I look at the opponent and I look at how the same position did against them. So, for example, last night, cashing Miles Jack, the linebacker, I went back and looked at how linebackers have done against the Cleveland Browns. And I was able to see that they're very active. They get a lot of tackles, probably because they run Chubb and they run Hunt so much more. So I pull up the game script, try and figure out what the game script is going to be. Does it set up for a passing or a running game? And 2 weeks in a row, we've cashed for clients. So Miles Jack, if you grabbed him at 7.5, it was an easy cash, but that line bumped up to 8.5 at plus money. So we were able to cash a plus money play on a defensive player. So I'm aiming to get at least one of these a week. It's probably going to be on a primetime game. So this is a fairly new category, so I'm not going all in with it. You're not going to see a 5% defensive play, but 2%, 3% here, adding just a couple units to bankrolls through defensive plays, defensive props are going to be something I'm looking forward to for the rest of the season. So, Matt, we're coming to you. First off, before you get to your best bet, talk to us a little bit about some college football trends or anything that you've noticed. I know your best bet is in college football. So how has the season started off so far?
Yeah, we're kind of hitting that point now where teams have either started conference play or getting ready to start conference play. So situational plays are definitely in step here. You know, if a team has a non-conference game against somebody crappy, but a big conference game up next, you certainly want to look at like a first half play, a first quarter play, things like that. You know, we're starting to see some of these squads who are, you know, capable offensively. And we're also seeing teams like Georgia who put a lot of effort into the first half in their games against lower opponents and then start to, you know, get a little lesser as the game goes along. You'll see them this week. They're taking on Kent State in a game that they should win by 1,000,000. But we've seen in those situations that Georgia kind of starts fast. They score a lot of points. And then as they get to the third quarter, they slow down a little bit sometimes. They speed up some other times. But that fourth quarter is really a dead spot for them in these games where they are not, where they are big favorites. And, you know, look, I like to think that I play a lot of games involving the academies. So for our best bet for the show today, I'm going with the team total over for Air Force, over 34.5. They are hosting Nevada tonight. It is a short week for Nevada, who had that 8-hour game against Iowa. I believe there were 3 weather delays. And then, you know, you're playing an Iowa team that's very physical. They run the ball a lot. It's a Big Ten opponent. And now you've got a team that has just 4 returning starters on defense. Flying to take on Air Force, a team coming off a really disappointing effort against Wyoming. Air Force is going to name their score in this situation. They do have Army next, but this is not one of those teams that kind of has this look-ahead situation sort of thing. I expect Air Force to score early and often in this one. You know that they also like to pass the ball a little bit. Nevada actually struggles against the run and the pass. So I think Air Force, as long as they don't turn the ball over as much as they have in the past, should be able to get a bunch of touchdowns here. We're under that key number of 35. So I like Air Force over 34.5 points here. I briefly looked at the first quarter under, but I was more confident in the team total than the first quarter under here. And if I'm going to play the first quarter under and then expect Air Force to score a lot of touchdowns, that doesn't really correlate with each other. So we're just going to go with the Air Force team total and hope the Falcons fly to at least 35 points this evening.
Love it. Wasn't Nevada on your list of teams to kind of look at fading coming into this year, Matt? Do I remember that correctly?
Yeah, pretty much their whole team went to Colorado State. They only returned like 6 starters total. They have a brand new head coach, and they won the first 2 games against crappy opponents, and then they gave up over 50 points to an FCS team, and then they lost to Iowa. So they're becoming the team I thought they were going to be. So yeah, there's no chance they're going to win tonight. So I think Air Force, they score a lot of points at home. I think this is a get-right situation for the team from Colorado Springs.
We're got to get that Dennis Green. They are who we thought they were ready. So if Nevada starts struggling, we get to play that for you. So great stuff. Let's pull for Air Force to score a lot of points tonight. That's going to do it for us, gentlemen. Andrew, tell everyone what you've got going for us at WagerTalk.com before we get out of here.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Andy. I have a week package for the props, so you can get all my props in one package for this weekend. And hey, we got some college football, NFL. I do have a CFL play of the night. So anybody's still interested in that, I'm hitting 63% on the season. So CFL play of the night is up, of course. And again, that NHL early bird special, guys. Check it out right now before the price goes back to regular. It was an unbelievable year last year with totals, sides, puck lines. And I'm going to have all kinds of great information coming out with futures. You guys just got a season point total on this show already. But really, really looking forward to that season. And hopefully a really great weekend.
Yeah, thanks to everybody in the chat room. Go in and give us a like, please, and give us a comment after the show's over. It really helps us. It really helps us show Wager Talk that the prop community is alive and well. Matt, what do you got for us here at sportsmemo.com?
Well, college football's going well so far. We had our quote-unquote worst week of the season so far, 6-5-1 last week, and we're going to try and do better this week, and you'll find that stuff up. And then, of course, the props for the NFL. Baseball's cooled off a little bit, so while we're trying to figure some things out, we're going to not really sell that stuff, but definitely get the college football and the NFL over at sportsmemo.com.
If you can end the year that your worst week was 6-5-1, you're
Yeah.
going to be a legend. So Nice work. That's Matt Josephs at sportsmemo.com. I'm Andy Lang at WagerTalk.com. We've got a 5% NFL play up already for Sunday. We cashed one last night. We've got another one for Sunday. And also 5% UFC play that goes off on October 1st. Get it now. Those lines are going to start moving really quick once Sunday rolls around. So grab the 5% play for UFC, grab the 5% play for NFL coming off of a really nice winning week last week, and then 2-0 last night in NFL. So thanks, everyone. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. Let's have a great weekend. Let's cash in all those props, and we will see you guys next Friday on another episode of Prop It Up.
You're a winner at WagerTalk even before the game is played with our Wager Rewards program. How does it work? Simple. Earn wager rewards on every purchase made at WagerTalk and Sports Memo. Those wager rewards can be converted into wager bucks on the first of every month. There is no additional fee to participate, and no additional details are required outside your valid WagerTalk or Sports Memo membership. On the first of each month, 5% of your wager rewards will be converted to wager bucks, which are available to purchase on all future purchases. Doesn't it feel good to be part of a rewards program with no additional hoops?